The neighborhood always seemed perfect on the surface. Every hedge trimmed to the same height, every house painted within the narrow palette approved by the board, and every lawn edged with military precision. The community pool sat at the center like a jewel, meant to represent both luxury and unity. On summer afternoons, children filled it with laughter and energy, while parents lounged nearby, grateful for the reprieve. But Karen never saw joy in that picture. To her, the pool was noisy, messy, and disorderly. She despised the sound of children splashing, the clutter of inflatable toys, and the droplets of water left on the pool deck. Over time, her disdain sharpened into obsession. She began showing up to board meetings with thick binders full of complaints. She claimed children were a safety hazard, that their games disrupted peaceful enjoyment, and that the community's image was being tarnished by what she saw as chaos. The board, weary of her constant demands, tried to appease her. They implemented restricted hours, barring children from the pool for long stretches of the day. It was a small concession, but to Karen it was a triumph. Clipboard in hand, she stationed herself near the water, watching like a guard, recording who came and went, determined to enforce the new rules. But what Karen didn't anticipate was the ripple effect of resentment. Parents who had tolerated her meddling with lawns and trash cans now found her interfering with their children's summer. Conversations sparked in backyards and driveways, families whispering about how unfair it was. Quietly at first, neighbors began to resist, bringing kids during restricted hours, daring Karen to intervene. The pool, once a place of leisure, had become a battlefield, and Karen had unknowingly set herself against the very heart of the community. The tension grew heavier with each passing week. Karen filed more reports, claiming she had seen dangerous behavior, exaggerating splashes into near accidents, and scribbling notes about pool toys as if they were weapons. She sent constant emails, demanding harsher restrictions, and even pushing for a total ban on children at the pool. But while she dug deeper into her campaign, the neighborhood began to organize. What had started as whispered frustration turned into action. Families coordinated, showing up in groups, sitting together in defiance of Karen's watchful eye. Parents stayed long after hours, their presence united and deliberate. The sound of children's laughter grew louder, not quieter, as though the entire community had decided that joy itself was their rebellion. The board, overwhelmed by Karen's relentless complaints, slowly began to tune her out. Neighbors who once stayed silent now openly rolled their eyes at her antics. At block gatherings, conversations shifted toward the absurdity of her crusade. Karen, once feared as the enforcer of order, was becoming a caricature, a figure of ridicule rather than authority. And then came the moment that tipped everything. One weekend, nearly every family showed up at the pool together. Parents filled the chairs, children filled the water, and flags, floaties, and bright towels turned the place into a scene of color and life. Karen stormed through with her clipboard, snapping photos, muttering about fines, but this time, no one moved. Instead, they smiled, laughed, and carried on as though she wasn't there. For the first time, Karen's authority cracked. Behind her blinds that evening, she seethed. In her mind, she was fighting for order, but what she failed to realize was that she had united the neighborhood, just not in the way she intended. Her mission to control had created something stronger than rules: solidarity. By the time autumn arrived, the board could no longer ignore the divide. At the next community meeting, the tension reached its peak. Karen arrived with her binder overflowing, ready to deliver a speech about chaos, disorder, and the supposed dangers of allowing children in the pool. She expected nods, applause, and validation. Instead, she was met with silence. Then, one by one, residents stood, not to support her, but to oppose her. Parents spoke of summer memories, of the importance of the pool for their children. Neighbors who had never before raised their voices shared stories of joy that Karen had tried to erase. The room filled not with fear of rules, but with the shared determination of a community tired of being controlled. The board listened carefully, and their decision was final. The restrictions were removed. Children were welcome at the pool without limits. Furthermore, Karen herself was warned. Her harassment and endless complaints were damaging the fabric of the neighborhood. If she continued, fines would be directed at her instead. The ruling marked a shift that could not be undone. The next day the pool filled again with laughter, brighter and louder than ever before. Karen watched from her porch, her clipboard clutched in silence, powerless to stop it. The authority she had once wielded with confidence had dissolved in the face of unity. The pool, once her battlefield, became the neighborhood's symbol of freedom. What began as her attempt to ban children had instead created a rebellion strong enough to topple her influence. The community thrived in the aftermath, closer than it had ever been. Karen, meanwhile, remained in her house, blinds drawn, still muttering about rules no one cared to follow. The neighborhood had moved on, and for the first time her voice no longer carried weight. The battle for the pool ended not with her victory, but with her downfall, and the lesson echoed through every street. When one person tries to control a community, sometimes all it takes is a splash of laughter to break free.